What's going on, everybody? It's the 6thman, host of RealTalk with the 6thman. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Man, when I was trying to start my podcast and get it off the ground, I had so many questions. How do I record an episode? Where do I find background music? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all of the other places people listen to podcasts? Where do I find advertising? Man, I had so many questions. But Anchor was my one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing, and monetizing my podcast. It's 100% free and 100% ridiculously easy. Very, very, very easy. If you want to start your own podcast, go to anchor.fm/start. Again, that's anchor.fm/start. Start your podcast, y'all. It's easy. 6thman, I'm out.
You're listening to my daddy, the 6thman.
Playing 6thman all star, I'm better than yesterday. I gotta be better than yesterday. I gotta be better than yesterday. No matter if I'm playing 6thman all star, I'm better than yesterday.
We gotta be better, do better. That's every minute, every second. Drop at juice, hope you collecting. The voice of the people, we all gon' get heard. This real spill, never clean what I say. Always tuned in, never tuned out. Gotta stay woke, be a sleepwalker. Gotta stand up, got too many standouts. Stay ready like the 6thman of the year. We up now. We up now.
Be better than yesterday. I gotta be better than yesterday. No matter if I'm playing 6thman all star, I'm better than yesterday. Be better than yesterday. I gotta be better than yesterday. No matter if I'm playing 6thman all star, I'm better than yesterday.
What's going on, y'all? What's up? Let me slide that over real quick. What's going on this Sunday? I wanted to catch y'all before the game came on. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to look at the comments here on Facebook to try to answer some of your questions and kind of connect with you. First and foremost, let me tell everybody I appreciate you coming through, man. I see already there's a couple people chimed in, so I appreciate that. And tonight, man, we just wanna talk, man. We just wanna talk about a few things that has been in the limelight. I mean, it's been on social media. It's been on TV once. I saw it on TV once, and then I saw it on social media. This was maybe like a couple weeks ago, and a few people, chimed in on it, man, and for the people that chimed in on it specifically, I remember had a great perspective. They were saying how they didn't necessarily like the picture because it depicted a mother being violent to her son, and some of the women felt like they got tired. They are tired of black women being depicted as being violent towards their kids, right? And so that's a perspective. That's something that I wanted to listen to. Something that I wanted to hear. So I put up a picture prior to the picture that I'm talking about now. I put up a post about boys. I think it was more or less the comment on the meme was like, boys can be princesses too, right? And so it was a group of pictures. It was about 4 or 5 pictures of different young men, black young men, with different princesses, and the princesses were also different colors. One of the princesses was white. One of the princesses was black, and so people had issues with the fact that the different colors of the princesses, and that the boys were only black. So it was a lot going on with that whole thing. And then maybe like 2 weeks later, it was another picture that came out with a mother and a white princess pulling her black son away from the princess. And at the top, it was saying how, she was like, not my son. I ain't got time for this. I'm sick of it. And she was pulling her son away from the princess with a belt. And so people commented on it. Some people said that it was sickening. Some people said that they tired of it. Some people said that that's messed up, emasculating little boys like that. And then others came on and they were talking about how, the mother was being depicted as being violent. That's violence against the child. And I mean that picture set the tone because it said a lot. I'm noticing now when people look at something, when people see something, when people hear something, everybody has a different perspective, which I don't have an issue with at all. Because I'm to the point now where we all gonna have different perspectives based off what we see, based off our past, based off some of the history, our past experiences. So all of us gonna have a different. All of us gonna have a different thought process of what that picture says. And so for me, I know, let me see, I can't see the live pics. Oh, I can't see the live comments. Hold on, I might have to slide this because I can't see the live comments. Okay, I can see them now. All right, so I'm going to try to comment as much as I can, and I'm going to try to connect with y'all as much as I can. Yes, you made it. You made it. You made it. I'm going to try to connect with y'all as much as I can. Just waving to everybody, letting y'all know I'm here. Acknowledging you. Let me see if I forgot anybody. Nope. Okay. So, I see you, KG. Romaine, what's up, champ? Hope that shoulder feel better, man. Get healthy, man. Mo, I see you, Mo. Wendy, I see you, Wendy. Why you come on during 12 p.m. service? I'm trying to tune into. It's not 12 p.m. It's 1 o'clock. What are you talking about? It's 1 o'clock. So getting back to the story, it was a picture, and it was depicted with a mother, and the mother was pulling her son away from this white princess, and it's been talked about a while, you know what I mean? And people had different views. So I really want to come on here and kind of share it with y'all. Now, my plan was to kind of, just sit down, kind of do a recording of it. But I was like, nah, let's go ahead and put it out there. Let's see who want to comment. Let's see what people think about it. So I'm going to try to, what's up? What's up, Peaches? Bianca, what's up, babe? I see you. Tisa, what's up? And so, I wanted to get you all's opinion, on the whole matter, because I know it was a lot of different things that popped up that people wanted to talk about. Mainly it was, the emasculation of black men regardless, right? But then now we're dropping the age limit, and now we're attacking, the younger men somewhat, right? And so just a little tidbit. I just finished watching the Aaron Hernandez documentary on Netflix, and I will take some time. See, what I do now, y'all, is I'm learning that I can't just talk about and comment on stuff right when I see it or right when I hear it. I gotta kind of let it absorb. Let me get it filtered in my head and then kind of talk about it. So I will talk about the Aaron Hernandez situation on a later date with another homie, because I got a homie. We do talk about sports sometimes and talk about things within sports, but kind of outside the actual sport itself. But on a later date, I'm gonna sit down with him, and we're gonna chop it up about that. But it made me bring up the point where, from a psychological profile, in the Aaron Hernandez story, one of the things that he asked his lawyer was, can people be born gay? And I've seen it all over social media. I've interviewed last year 2 guys that were gay, openly gay. One was just coming out. His story was kind of, he was from Texas. He was from an Indian family, Indian descent, and he came to D.C. And him being in Texas, he couldn't come out. because he knew it would be repercussions of coming out. And I was like, damn, for real? So I wanted to kind of hear his story. And then I interviewed an old co-worker about his transition. And both of their transitions were different, but then some of them had similarities that were kind of the same, similar. So, the question that, Aaron Hernandez asked his lawyer about, can people be born gay? It made me think, you know what I mean? And so I wanted to talk about it. And Peaches is already saying, boys can, let me see, make sure I'm right. Says, no, I didn't see your post. Tisa, but I was already planning to talk about this. Peaches, you just said something. Where your comment go? Peaches said, boys can be princesses. Now, Peaches, are you saying that they can be princesses, or are you asking? Because I know your perspective is always a little different, and I love it because I want to be able to have some dialogue here. So just let me know what you're saying. Say let it marinate. Yeah, I tend to do that. Jane. I tend to kind of let it marinate so that way I don't come out, using an ignorant type of mindset, because I always want to be open, and I know it's always, three sides to a story. Is, one side, the other side, and then it's the truth. So I want to kind of, speak on it, on both sides. I was going to ask Peaches how. Okay, so the conversation has already started. And so, in my mind, I was like, I heard this question before, can people be born gay? And I was just like, I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but I did go on YouTube, right? YouTube is like the new university if you want to know something. And it was something interesting that I saw, and I can't remember the specifics, but I remember they said that it's a chromosome that's set up in our DNA and some people's DNA that will allow them to have a different genetic makeup, from their original, male or female form. So in stupid terms, there's a chromosome that will allow males to feel like females, and then there's a chromosome that would allow females to feel like males. And I mean, they say that you can either take it out, you can put it in, you can, do all this stuff. And I was like, I'm not going to say, whether that's good or bad or not. But my thing is, I have a daughter. She's 6. And I know most of us have kids. KG, she got a son. And a lot of us got kids. And I think that, in terms of adults, when they get to a certain age, and I mean, even if you, 13 or 14, because the two gentlemen that I interviewed on my show last year, they both told me similar stories of how, they would have female friends in school and they weren't really attracted to them, right? And so it made me think like, damn, so at a young age, they already kind of knew that they did not like females. And one of the guests that I had literally told me that he used to have a friend where they used to go to the park and they used to, have sexual acts. They used to kiss. He said he used to suck on her breasts and, all this stuff. But eventually he still ended up saying that he went to the mall one day and was looking at a guy and he got an erection. And I was just like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? And I mean, I'm not one to judge. I'm not one to do any of that. But my thing is, I just wanted to hear his story, like to see really what it is. So again, back to the question, can people be born gay? I cannot answer that because I'm not a doctor. But I know for me, growing up, I do understand that in the family setting, that once a boy is growing, that the setup is, no, you can't play with baby dolls, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, or you can't play, with girls and do certain things. I mean, and when I grew up, initially, my first kind of, encounter with a young lady was way back in the day when my mother had a job at the Hoffman building. She was a security guard, and I was going to a daycare, and the daycare was called Mary Poppins. And if I can find this picture, y'all, I think I might have posted it a long time ago, but if I can dig into my cradle of memories, I'll try to post this picture, because I was in the daycare, with just, and mind you, at this time when my mother was working at the Hoffman Building, we were living in Laurel, Maryland, right off Merkirk Drive, I believe it is, and it's right by BW Parkway. And so it was a shopping center, and then if you came down our hill and made a right and kept straight and bared all to the right, that was BW Parkway to get back to Southeast or, other parts of the area. And so for a few years, that's where we lived. I mean, a lot of people don't know that about me, but I lived in Laurel, Maryland, and I had a white babysitter. Her name was Pat Strickland, and I loved Pat. I mean, I didn't like some of the food that they fixed for me, but, Pat looked out for us. She took a liking to me and my brother, and even though we were black, her husband, I think his name was George, and they had a son named Brad. They did not treat us or look at us any differently, and my mother felt comfortable enough to leave us in Pat's hands. And I mean, my mother worked so much, and that's why I respect the grind of a female. I mean, I respect the grind of a person overall, but my mother felt so comfortable with Pat watching us. She would go out and do later shifts and go out, and do, later work and leave us with Pat. And Pat would literally fix us dinner. I remember times that her husband George would help me with homework and stuff. And so, I mean, I was still young, but little homework, because I'm young, I'm not in school. My brother was in school, but I wasn't. But they would help me with letters, numbers, and stuff like that. And I remember that stuff. I mean, I was telling my mother one day, and she looked at me. She was like, "You remember that?" I was like, "Man, I remember all that." I remember when they used to make chili, and they used to have the saltine crackers, and they used to put mayonnaise on the saltine crackers. I used to be like, "Nah, I can't do that." But what I'm saying is, when I was in Laurel, I remember being at this daycare center, and I remember being maybe three. It was three of us. It was another black young man. It was a black girl, me, and then everybody else was white. Everybody else was white. And so I remember, stop laughing, Gene. And I remember one time vividly that we were having nap time, and we had our individual cots that we would sleep in. And I remember one time I got out of a cot and got in a cot with a white girl, and kind of like got up behind her and slept and slept with her in the cot. And I remember that one of the administrators told my mother, and of course, she gave me a talking to and a little spank and told me that I couldn't do that. But at that time, and I'm thinking I'm probably like my daughter's age, maybe 5 or 6. I knew then that I was attracted to females, right? And so I remember another time, and I'm just giving y'all stories, couple stories. I remember another time my mother was working late. I was I was a little adventurous around in our parking lot, around in our apartment complex. And there was a young lady, I can't remember her name, but she wasn't black. She was like black and Korean mixed. Oh, she was beautiful. She had that long black hair, pretty skin. I was all over that. And I remember my mother was looking for me, and somebody had told her that they saw me going with the little girl, and her parents weren't home. And man, me and this little girl was in her house, and we wasn't fully naked, but we was kissing, we was doing all types of stuff, right? And I'm telling y'all, I'm a young man. I'm young. You know what I'm saying? I'm young. And so I'm just saying that at a young age, I knew I was fully into women, right? And so I felt like when this discussion came up, I knew it was gonna hit a couple people in different ways, because some people look at it like, ain't no little boy supposed to be dressed up in no princess outfit. And then some people looked at it like, well, why the mother gotta be beating it? I mean, was she gonna beat it out of him? I mean, if he gay, was she gonna beat it out of him? And so it's a discussion, because I feel like there are going to be some situations where young men are going to want to figure out going forward what they are and what they're going to be in life. And I mean, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that I have an issue with young men experimenting and within experimenting realizing that they want to be with other boys. I'm just saying that at what point do we push that type of thinking on not just young boys, but little girls as well? You know what I mean? Because I always heard growing up, oh, I'm a tomboy, or I was a tomboy, or I was a tomboy. What does that mean? You a tomboy. What does that mean? That you like to do boy things, but you still a girl? And so, you know, with the younger men, it's like if we see our son, you know, playing with doll babies and, you know, playing with girls, doing their hair, you know, all that type of stuff, how do we deal with that, right? And so I'm not saying that there is a situation where that you guys aren't going to encounter a young man wanting to do that, but my question is, how do we have that conversation with our young man to find out if that's not something that he really wants to do, or if it was something that he was forced to do? Because in the first couple of pictures that I saw, two of the young men I remember specifically were dressed up in these dresses, but they did not look like they were comfortable. Like, they did not look like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. It looked like it was kind of forced. So some people was like, oh, it was a publicity stunt. Some people was like, oh, here we go again with trying to emasculate the male and all this other stuff. And I'm like, it's just a conversation. So I want to go to some of the comments, because I see you guys have been commenting, so I don't want you guys to think that I missed you. So I'm going to go through some of the comments really quick to see if I can catch you. I want to give everybody a kind of a wave. And if you guys are here, listen, and if you guys are here, if you don't mind, can you give me a heart? Can you give me a like? Do you mind sharing this? Because I want this conversation to kind of keep going. So if you can, please share this to somebody else. I will be putting it on my other platform, on my audio version of my podcast as well. Thank you for the hearts. I see the likes. Thank you for the hearts. I see the likes. Okay, so I'm gonna come down and start going with the comments and say, so when I was in, so Tisa says, when I was in the first grade, my classmate was gay, so he was like 7. And so again, you know, here we go saying that, you know, that was first grade, like that he knew he was already gay, right? And so how did that come apart? Like how did that look? How did he know that he was really gay that young, that early? Boys can be princesses and not be princesses. Okay, Peaches, I hear you. And now as an adult, do what tickles your fancy. And I agree with that. You know, Peaches, I agree with that 100%. Do, like my man Devin say, do what you do, man. Twin says, Prince, I think she meant well, it spell check princesses. Okay, that's cool. Let me see. Women are designed to be princesses and men are designed to be princesses. Prince. Let me make sure I say that right. Prince. And then some people are born to be both. Okay, and so that's a conversation. KG says, I do believe that some, not all, that are gay people are born gay, and you know that's a conversation as well. Peaches says that I knew one of my little cousins was gonna like men from the time he was a toddler, and so you know that's my thing. It's like, you know, I'm not sure what the age difference is between you and your cousin, Peaches, but what how did that conversation go? Like when you saw him or if you interacted with him, like was there a conversation? Was there a conversation between him and his parents? I'm not sure if the father was in the house, because there's a whole lot of different dynamics that happen, because I know for a fact that, you know, when men see their son in a certain light, listen, my father, Melvin, listen, my father, this is my father, y'all. This is Melvin Williams right here. This is my man, 50 grand. And I know for a fact that when he grew up, you know, in the 50s and 60s, they didn't play that. They didn't have all of that. They didn't have all of the stuff that we got now. And I'm not saying that people weren't gay, but my father did not want him to approach me and my brother in a way where he felt like it was okay for us to be gay. Now, if we would have ended up being gay, I don't think my father, would have had an issue with it. He probably would have had to deal with it if that makes sense. But I don't think he would have forced us to be straight. But, with his genetics and his DNA and, running through my brother and I got 2 beautiful daughters. My brother got 2 beautiful daughters. And it just never was meant to be for us to be gay. Period, point blank. And so my father, he was set up a certain way where, that wasn't going to happen in our household. Well, around him anyway. And so I got a lot of y'all watching. Hey, Tiffany, I see you. Sherry, I see you. Ernest, what's up, champ? I see you. Let me go down. Sadie, I see you. Aunt Shirley, I see you, Shirley. Jean, I'm visualizing the mayonnaise on the crackers. Come on, man. I knew that was you talking about that, man. Stop it, man. Okay, so Mo says there was a kid that was babysat that played with my little pony dolls, combed their hair and all, but would never take the dolls out of the house. Never. And so, to me, I think that that's sort of a sign. That's sort of a sign that maybe, he understood that, he had to be, referenced as a masculine male outside, but then in the house, he was able to kind of do, what he felt was good for him in the inside. And so again, y'all, I'm not saying that that young men cannot be princesses. I'm not saying that that's not a possibility, but what I'm saying is the word prince and princess is set up with, like KG was saying, that a female would be the princess and the male would be the prince. And so when I saw this and it said, boys can be princesses too, I knew it was going to go through the roof. I knew it was going to be a conversation where, people wanted to talk about it and it was going to be some dialogue about it. And so I thank you for the comment. Joe, I see you. Tweety Bird, I see you. Let me see. Let me keep going. Ebony, I see you, Ebony. Bruce, what's up, champ? My man, Bruce Bailey. I used to love my man when he was with Backyard. He used to give us that good old, man. Oh, man. I got a 96 Backyard, Bruce. Oh, my God, Slim. You was killing it on that joint, man. X-Ree all the way. Hey, listen. Let me just give my man X-Ree a quick shout out, man. My man X-Ree Hip, X-Turpin, out in Vegas doing his thing, man. My man is watching me live. I appreciate it, champ. Appreciate you, homie. So Khadijah says that Kevin Hart was nationally criticized for saying he would hit his son over the head with a dollhouse if he caught him playing with it, right? And so again, that's that conversation where that's an individual with individual thinking, and that's his household, right? How can we criticize him for doing what he think is right in his household? We cannot do that because we all see how Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade allows their son to openly be, whatever it is he wants to be, right? And so I remember I saw a picture of Gabrielle Union and him at like a gay pride parade. And I mean, I don't know how old this young man is, but it's still like what did that conversation look like? Did it look like, are you a boy? Do you like boys? Do you like female? Like how do you know for a fact that this is something that he's comfortable with doing? Because again, talking about this this Aaron Hernandez thing, and I don't want to talk about it too much, but him questioning his attorney, asking him, can people be born gay? Like his father, Aaron Hernandez's father, didn't play that shit. And that's why I showed y'all my father, because my father was old school like that. And I remember times my father would grab me and, be disciplining me or whatever. And he'd be like, I dare you cry. I dare you to start crying. I mean, I remember one time I was playing with the bird. And my father's apartment, he had a bird. And my father told me to stop playing with the bird, stop messing with the bird. And it was a plastic bat. Like those little T-ball bats, the yellow bats. I mean, it wasn't hard. It was just like a plastic, hollow in the inside. Hey, listen, when I tell you I should have listened to my father when he said stop playing with that bird, listen, that's all I'm going to tell you. I should have listened to my father when he told me to stop playing with that bird. But I can remember, getting ready to cry. He would get right in my face. I dare you to cry, because if you cry, I'm going to really give you something to cry for. And so back then, it was a different time. Those times, parents could discipline their kids like that and not have the police show up, at their house, right? And I'm going to use an example real quick because I got a homie, few years back, a homie of mine, good homie, has 2 daughters. And he came home one day, and his daughters, when he opened the door, his daughters was doing something that didn't look right to him. That's all I'm going to say. His daughters was doing something to each other that didn't look right to him. So he spanked them, and he disciplined them. And he was living in Montgomery County at the time. And I remember talking to another homie that found out about it. He said that the neighbor of my man called the police, and when the police showed up, he went to the door with the belt still in his hand and was like, "What's up?" And the police was like holding their guns, like, "Can you put the belt down?" And he put the belt down, and they arrested my man. They arrested my man and charged him with all types of stuff, child endangerment, assault. All types of stuff. He had a lot that he had to deal with in that situation. And I was just thinking to myself, like, damn, it's to the point now in this day and age, you can't even discipline your child in your own house if you got neighbors that feel a certain type of way. So it's like, how do you ever discipline your kids and structure them kind of the way you were raised? And but even if your children go whatever route they decide to do, you know what I'm saying, what does that conversation look like? Because you have to have a conversation. You have to kind of, not saying the birds and the bees, but you kind of have to have a conversation with them to see, what route you should take with that. Let me see. Tweety Bird said, "I believe that you are born with your sexual preference. My son knows he likes women at 1. I didn't really know how to think about sexual preference until I had my son and watch his natural instincts kick in. So if you are going to be gay, then if you're going to be gay, they are gay at birth." Okay, and so Tweety Bird, that's not an opinion that I'm going to disagree with, because if that's what you feel, it is what it is. Let me see. I thank y'all again for watching. I'm trying to get to the comments as fast as I can. Khadijah says, "I get being angry, and I get being angry at the abuser. However, I do have an issue with the gay community being angry with heterosexuals for not wanting their child to be gay. I'm a Christian, and I don't want him to become Muslim later in life, but I will love and support him no matter what." So there you go. And so that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that if that's what the young man decides to do later on in life, but what does that look like? Do we just push dresses? Do we just push doll babies? Do we push all this stuff into his face to make him feel like that's what it is? I don't really know. Tisa says he was cheering, jumping double dutch with all the girls. And guess what? I remember, Tisa, to be honest, I remember Darren Thomas. Darren Thomas was somebody that I went to school with in Henley. And I remember at an early age that Darren was a little bit more feminine, than all of the rest of the boys. But I remember I still was cool with Darren, though. If Darren was on here and he would watch this, he would tell y'all I was cool with Darren. I remember I used to walk up, to up at Cascade, and I forgot the name of the apartments where Jamal and them used to live at, with Shanice, Huggins, and all my homies that I went to Henley with. Shout out to the Henley Hornets. That I used to go up there and I used to chill, with Darren. I remember when Ralph Delahunt, before he passed, that was my man. He lived over in the courts with them, and I can remember that Darren had got into a situation in the parking lot at school, and he beat this dude up. And even though everybody in school knew, he was soft, but Darren can fight though. So it's like, I can't say that a male is never going to end up identifying being gay. I'm just saying, at what age limit do we have that conversation? At what point do we say, okay, when we identify something, how do we identify and how do we have that conversation to really identify whether that's what it's going to be, before we actually, discipline or jump in and do something with our kids, because we don't necessarily know, if that's something that's generally, that's what they want to do. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate all of the comments. Lakeisha Grimes said, "Why should it be a conversation. If that's your child, you're gonna love the child regardless. Well, I mean, yeah, but it still has to be a conversation, Lakeisha. I mean, it still has to be. You still want to have a conversation to get to know. You want to know, like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just like, if your child comes home and he's a boy and he's a male, but if he comes home and he tells you he's gay, it's like you don't want to know. You don't want to talk to him to find out how he got to that point. I'm not saying that you're going to try to talk him out of it, but it still needs to be some communication. Like, it still needs to be a talk to find out what his reasons are. Maybe he's being led by somebody else that, not in a good way to be like that, and you just want to know. So you just want to generally know, that's something that they generally want to do. I'm not saying that it has to be a conversation where you're going to beat them up about it. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, we black, man. And we know that a lot of our black households, a lot of our black families, we did not communicate about a lot of stuff. All we did was let stuff slide and never talked about it. So that's all I'm saying is, now we at a point now where we have to communicate stuff to find out what's really going on. Peaches says his mannerisms and both of his parents knew and they accepted it. And I mean, and if that's the case, it's nothing I could do about that. Thank you for the comment, Peaches. Sonia says, people say that the X and Y chromosome cross during fertilization. And I think that was some of the stuff that I heard on the YouTube channel that I looked at, Twin. So thank you for mentioning that. And they did say that it can kind of switch, during that process. But again, I mean, I'm just saying, at what point, do we have a conversation versus just, pushing dolls, pushing dresses, pushing makeup. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that. I mean, when I found out my sister Ashley was gay, I don't think I ever felt no type of way about it, right? But I remember us talking about it though. I remember not in a forcible way, because at the time my sister's mother didn't take it as well, but I remember me and my sister talking. And at the time, she was going to Flowers and she was playing basketball. And I remember, just us talking about it, because I had remember her, liking boys. I mean, I remember her dealing, having, boy friends, so to speak. But I remember we talked about it and she told me, how she felt, what it felt like for her. And, at that point, I was just like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you still my sister. And like you saying, Lakeisha, we going to love them regardless. And that's true. But what I'm just saying is having the conversation. Because what if it's a young male feeling like he's pressured into being something he's not? I just don't want young men to feel like they got to be pressured into something that they truly don't want to be, or be pressured into what society is telling them to be. You know what I'm saying? I want them to generally know for a fact that that's something that they want to do. That's all I'm saying. So my man Gene says, I don't really care, just be real either way. Biologically, some people born with both genitalia. If God has made space for this to be reality, then I have to accept that. Some people are born gay. And before anyone says God this and God that, remember all the other things God permits in his permissive will. Just be real to yourself and have your own relationship with God through it all. Hey, Jane, guess what, Slim? And that's why I'm glad you a homie of mine, man. Because I feel like when we talk, we always kind of, see things eye to eye, but then we got a way of breaking down why we feel the way we feel, or breaking down why we saying what we saying. We just don't blur it out and just say, whatever. So, I mean, I appreciate y'all, man, coming through. I can't read all of the comments, you know what I'm saying, because there's so many of them. But I did want to end with this doll baby thing, right? And so this doll baby thing just came out, and it's a transgender doll baby. It's a transgender doll baby, and it has a little penis on it. And I'm just like, what is this? I mean, are we pushing this to little kids? Like, so I just feel like kids, like my daughter right now, she's absorbing so much. I mean, she asks so many questions when we watch a TV, when we driving, you know, when I'm picking her up from school, she's seeing other stuff that other kids in her school is doing, even if they're in her class or in a higher class. I mean, she asks so many questions. My daughter, between her mother and me, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I'm not gonna say I was a dummy because I wasn't really, you know, that high on academics when I was in school. And her mother, I think, just got her master's degree, I believe, and then she works for the Justice Department, so she is smart, college degree, all of that. So, you know, Gianna, you know, to me is even smarter than a lot of kids that she's in school with, because they give us this little sheet and it tells us the percentile, and I mean, she's in the top 5 percentile at 6. And I mean, she even had to wait a year because her birthday is in November, so she couldn't go to kindergarten right away. We had to wait like another year, you know what I mean? And so I think she's well advanced, but she asks so many questions. I mean, her mother provides that motherly, you know, let me get your nails done, let me get your feet done. And I know even for me, I try to do the same thing. I try to, you know, make her feel pretty, make her feel nice. You know, I'm not too soft with her. I think I'm just enough, you know, because I'm not saying rough her up, but we play all the time. I mean, my daughter play with me all the time, but I'm not saying rough her up, but we play, and I want her to know that, you know, it's okay to be, you know, somewhat aggressive to people who are trying to be aggressive towards you. Right, male or female. And I tell her all the time, if somebody hits you, put your hands on them, right? You know, try to refrain from putting your hands back on them. Go tell somebody. I said, but if it get to a point where you feel endangered, if you fear, you know, hit them back and then go tell the teacher. So I mean, I try to, you know, tell her as much as I can. But this transgender doll baby, I mean, it broke. It took me to I was just sitting there thinking, like, why are they coming out with this? And I mean, you can have all different types of conversations about the LGBTQ community, and people feel like, you know, they get all of this attention, they get all of these programs, they get all of this love, but black men and women don't get any love. You got black women that get abused, that get raped, you know, that's missing. You got black men that's in jail, black men on child support, they can't work. You got the LGBTQ community getting all this shine, but you got black people, men and women, not really getting none of that. But then you got the Mexicans with this program, DACA, that's getting all this shine. It's just like, wow. And now it's like, you know, I was having a conversation with my man and them, Mike Reed, and Big Sko, and Sean, Mike's Corner. Their podcast is pretty dope. I've been on their podcast a couple times. And I remember Mike Reed saying that, you know, the LGBTQ community is just too strong. People don't want to mess with them, right? People don't want to, you know, start talking bad about them because bad things happen. And then we know what happened with Dave Chappelle when he had his Netflix special. He was talking about the cancel culture, and it's just like nowadays you can't say nothing because everybody's so sensitive and everybody now got something to say. And I mean, I don't mind people having something to say, but let it make sense. Let it have some understanding to it. Don't just be blurting out stuff just because you want somebody to hear your voice. And that's why I say when I talk about stuff, when I come to y'all, I try to come with a sound mind and not just blurting stuff out. So let me go back to a couple of the comments since I switched the narrative a little bit. Let me see. Ron Black says, I'm not with transgender baby dolls, bruh. We're opening the doors to conversations with children that I don't feel they're quite ready for. Let little boys and little girls be little boys and little girls. I mean, I'm with you, Black. I'm with you, Slim. I mean, I kind of feel the same way. But again, somebody that doesn't have that same view is going to want to have a conversation with you. And I don't want to say argument, but I'm going to say dialogue. Somebody is going to want to have a certain type of dialogue with you. KG says, I have conversations with my 14-year-old son now about girls and how to treat them. You have to have conversations with your children about everyday life issues. I talk to my son about sex condoms, protection, drugs, girls, saying no, and so many other subjects. And I mean, KG, guess what? You are doing the right thing. I mean, because I feel like, the conversation is needed. You know what I mean? Let me see. Did I miss Ebony? Because somebody is agreeing with Ebony. Ebony said, I believe as people we have a bad habit of always wanting to label things early. Just because your son may display feminine traits doesn't make him gay. Just because your daughter may be a tomboy doesn't make her gay. We need to allow time to tell. I believe in talking to your child on that level. And I mean, and that's what I mean, I think, Ebony, that's basically in a nutshell, I think that's kind of what I was saying, because I felt like when I was a young man, I grew up on 6th Street, and there was a young lady by the name of Ebony Young, and she was a very beautiful, she had a well-shaped body, I mean, very athletic, and if you mess with her wrong, she would whoop your ass. I mean, she was physically capable of fighting and would whoop you. And it was females, when her and her sister Danielle went to school, they fought all the time because they was they were pretty girls, had nice banging bodies, but they would whoop your ass, and you wouldn't jump out there with Ebony or her sister or Tiffany, because if you did, you was gonna get, listen, if you fought one of them, you fought all of them. I'm gonna just say that. If you fought one, you fought all three. And I mean, they whole family, from their aunts and they uncles, I mean, listen, they got it in. And so I remember, Ebony being one of them friends that I had for a long time. And I remember when I was going through my stuff, Ebony was one of them friends for me that I felt like, they say everybody has a reason or a season, in your life. And Ebony was like one of my best friends at one of the, turning points in my life, because she didn't want to see me in the street. She didn't want to see me selling drugs. She didn't want to see me, just, locked up dead or whatever. And I remember, we used to have these conversations. And I mean, as she's grown up, she's a little bit more, feminine now. But back in the day, she was still feminine. But again, she would whoop your ass. So Ebony, that's a great point. And I just feel like that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, the conversation definitely needs to be had. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and Khadijah, again, with you, that's a perfect conversation. I mean, because I'm not saying that it's either right or wrong. I'm not saying, it can't be done. But what I'm saying is, we can't be just pushing stuff to these kids, making them automatically think it's okay. And I'm not saying okay, like it can't be okay, but I'm just saying, let's talk. Let's have a conversation. Let's just don't force it on. I mean, now they got bathrooms in schools that's transgender. Like what? Like, I mean, I remember I was reading a story, and there was a school where they took the doors off the they took the doors off the bathroom. I'm like, what? Like, so now it's just this. I feel like it's just too much. And we're in a world now where, I mean, you can kind of do whatever you want, which is fine. But all I'm saying, I got a 6-year-old now. My oldest daughter is 24. She's doing her final year at Bowie State University. I feel like she's grown. Whatever she decides to tell me she wants to do with her life, again, like y'all saying, I'm still going to love her regardless. But guess what? I still want to have a conversation with her. Whether she's having kids, whether she's having a baby, whether she tells me she wants to be with another woman. I don't know how it is to be with another woman, so I might have to, consult my sister and say, hey, what do I tell baby girl about this? How do I approach this? I mean, that's what we need to do as family members, as parents. We got to communicate, right? And so that's all I'm saying. But I just say that to say, I just feel like with the kids, my little one, Gianna, I don't want to feel like I'm just, allowing her to be a little boy if that's not what she really want to be. So I generally take a step back and I just watch her. And when she asks me something, the first thing she'll ask me a question, and the first thing I'll ask her, why you ask me that? You heard somebody else say that? And then she'll begin to tell me her story, and I'll be like, oh, okay, okay. And then I begin to talk to her. So that's all I'm saying, y'all. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying that, dang, there's a lot of y'all on here. I appreciate y'all, man. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm not saying that it don't happen. I'm just saying we should have a conversation. And we should make sure we are having a conversation with an open mind, and having an open mind with understanding. And like Khadijah and like Peach just saying now, communication is the key. And it is. I mean, we have to communicate. We cannot feel like, you know, in this day and age that we can just let stuff fly and not talk. I mean, even to kind of on a side note, you know, when we talk about relationships, and I'm not just talking about, you know, with people, I'm talking about in business. You know, if you got a guy that does your oil change, you know, you got to communicate with him. Hey, what's up? Like my man who do oil change, I be like, Anthony, what's up? Where you at? Oh, I'm old Laurel. Hey, what time can you come and give me an oil change? Oh, well, I'll probably be around your way about 4 o'clock. I'll call you and let you know. And then this times he may hit me back. Hey, I actually had somebody cancel, so I can get to you about 2 o'clock. All right, bet I'm in the house. It's communication. Communication is the key, even in a relationship, regardless if it's just between you and another person or if it's business or whatever the case may be. Communication is the key, and that's why I think that I enjoy doing what I do with y'all, because it's not hard, one, and two, it's a little bit of a stress reliever for me, because I can use it to kind of, you know, let go some of the things that I think about, and then give you guys an opportunity to see kind of where I'm at. Because back in the day, I was a different person, and I mean, when I say different person, I was closed-minded. I always had an attitude. I always thought everything else was everybody else's fault. I never thought I was at fault for nothing, and I was just a wild young man. I was wild, man. You know what I'm saying? And I tell people that story where I got arrested for something minor. I got locked up. I went to Upper Marlboro, and the jail was overcrowded, so they put me in a lockdown unit, which meant I was in the cell for 23 hours a day, 1 hour a rec, right? And I remember, long story short, you know, I ended up being in that cell for 6 months. I ended up being in solitary confinement for 6 months. And I mean, by the time I stepped foot out that cell, one time the CO came to give me something to eat early in the morning, because in jail, you know, you eat early. Your breakfast is like 3:30 in the morning, like 3 o'clock in the morning, some crazy shit like that. And I remember getting out of bed, and I never really wanted to eat that shit. I just would just get up and get it and put it on the and just jump back in the bed. And I never had a roommate. I didn't have a roommate at that time, so I was just in there swole, doing push-ups, sit-up. I mean, just doing whatever I could do to keep my mind sane. I remember one time the dude gave me a deck of cards, and I would just, you know, shuffle the cards, and my routine was just get the card, and whatever card it was, that's how many push-ups I would do. And I mean, I was in that cell for 6 months, y'all. And by the time I stepped foot out that cell, my mind was, I was an animal. If you looked at me wrong, if you said something to me, it's whatever. It's a wrap. And so people, you know, as I grew up and started hanging with, you know, people, when I got out and went to Baloo and was hanging with different people and, you know, creating new friendships with the homies that I got friends now with, they used to be like, damn, that nigga crazy. And it wasn't that I was crazy. Guess what? If you was locked in your bedroom with no TV, no electronics, just you for 6 months, for 23 hours a day, that shit would change you as well. And that's all I'm saying. You know, people don't understand what your past is. People don't understand where you came from. And I mean, and that's kind of, you know, one of the elements that I came from. And people used to always ask me, why was I so aggressive? Hey, listen, after being in that cell for 23 hours a day, 1 hour a rec, and being in that joint for 6 months and getting out, when they cracked up, hey, open the cell for Williams. They opened up that cell and put me in H11A, general population. Man, I was an animal, Slim. And as soon as I walked in there, it was like 4 dudes that I had dealt with in the street, and we saw each other, dapped up, whatever. I'm like, nigga, you just swole now. Yeah, I was like, man, I was telling them what happened, and I'm talking about, y'all, my first day. We in there playing spades. A dude get to talking slick at another table. Man, I got up and just and punished cuz off the break, and they had to put me back in the same lockdown unit, but they went upstairs. I had like this little counselor, this psychiatrist or whatever, and they had saw what had happened to me, and they was like, this man had just been here, but this man has been in lockdown for 6 months when he got like this petty charge. No. Take him out of lockdown. We need to put him in a unit with some guys that's on chill. So they put me in another unit where everybody was just chill, and as soon as I walk in the unit, I know some dudes in that junk, and it's chill. You know, Southeast, Maryland, Oxon Hill, you know, everybody got their own little, you know, whatever. But, you know, I was chill. But even still, I was on edge. If you said something to me, if you looked at me wrong, hey, Slim, I'm going to beat the brakes off you. And that was my mindset when I got out. And when I went to Baloo, luckily, when I was at Roosevelt, I was a little quieter, you know, because, you know, I wasn't from uptown, but I knew folks from uptown. Shout out to all my uptown But when I went back to Ballou, the Southeast, I was at home again. So I'm just saying, I just gave y'all that little tidbit to, you know, kind of let y'all see that, you know, you always don't know what you think you know about a person, and you always cannot automatically assume something about somebody just because they react a certain way. And I know that the phrase is, you know, somebody's perception of you at that time is their reality of you, but that might not necessarily be your reality though. You might just be showing them something at a time where you just in a bad state of mind at that time, but that's what they remember about you. Because I know when I used to go out, motherfuckers used to be like, nigga right there, man, don't fuck with him. He ought to change. So when I was at Dale State, man, people was like, that motherfucker, why the fuck is he here? He ain't no student. He fighting every day. I mean, I don't feel like I was fighting every day, but I was in conversations, and I was not the type to back down from a conversation. Nigga, if you want to do something, let's do it. And so, you know, I'll close with saying that, you know, at the end of the day, regardless of, you know, what your child may want to do, what you may see in your child, we gotta communicate, man. We gotta talk. We gotta find out what it really is, you know, and make sure that you good with it. Like everybody's saying, you gotta, you know, you gonna love your child regardless, but at the end of the day, let's still have that communication. Let's talk and not just be rushed to judge, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate all y'all coming through. If anybody missed it, I would definitely keep it up on this Facebook feed, and I'm definitely going to download the audio part so y'all can hear that, you know, as well. And so again, I'm on Facebook, as y'all see, Real Talk with the 6thman. I'm on IG, Real Talk 6thman. I'm on Twitter. I don't use Twitter that much, and on Twitter I'm the 6thman 4, and then my YouTube page. That's kind of what I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start trying to put more content on my YouTube page, and my YouTube page is the 6thman. So once I finish with this and I let it download, I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to pop it up on my YouTube channel as well, so I'll have it there as well. So I just appreciate y'all coming through. I wanted to give y'all something before these games started, because I know I want to watch the game a little bit myself, and my daughter upstairs, and she probably waiting for me to talk to me or whatever. But I just wanted to, you know, come on here real quick, share that with y'all. I got another topic coming real soon, but I just wanted y'all, you know, to just, you know, chill with me today and just kind of talk about it. So I appreciate everybody, man. I appreciate all y'all comments. I'll try to go through the comments if I missed you and try to comment so we can keep it going. But again, I mean, just keep watching out for a few things that I'm trying to do. If y'all missed it, I was just up Bald Eagle with some young men, talking to them. So you can go to my YouTube channel and check that out. And there's also on my Facebook page, Real Talk with the 6thman. And again, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me, man. And again, like I always tell y'all, man, be better than you were yesterday, man. Peace. Y'all be easy.